I died on a Tuesday, choking on my own vomit in the sterile glow of a midtown Manhattan hotel bathroom. The taste of cheap bourbon and betrayal burning my throat like acid rain. The noose I'd fashioned from my own belt. Twisted irony for a Wall Street analyst who'd spent her life tying up loose ends. Hadn't even been necessary. The pills did the job faster. A cocktail of regret and rage I'd swallowed to drown out the voices screaming that I'd been played. But as the world faded to black, one truth clawed its way through the haze. They didn't just frame me for embezzlement. They buried the real monster in the books, and I was the sacrificial lamb to keep their empire standing. When I gasped awake in my old Brooklyn walk-up, the alarm clock blinking 6:47 a.m. on a crisp September morning 3 years earlier, I thought I'd slipped into some fever dream scripted by a sadistic god with a grudge against overachievers. My hands, younger, unscarred by the frantic clawing at invisible walls, shot to my neck, finding only smooth skin, no ligature marks from the noose that never tightened. The mirror across the room showed my face at 28. Not the hollow-cheeked wreck of 31, eyes wild with the knowledge of a death that hadn't happened yet. Holy shit, I whispered, my voice cracking like thunder in the quiet apartment. I'd been given a do-over, a goddamn reset button on the nightmare that ended me, and the first thought that hit wasn't gratitude. It was fury, pure and electric, surging through my veins like the shot of adrenaline I'd never gotten in that final, lonely hour. I was Isabella Reyes, the nobody from the Bronx who'd clawed her way into Hargrove and Associates, a mid-tier investment firm where sharks in Brooks Brothers suits devoured dreams for breakfast. Back then, in this timeline, I was still the eager junior analyst, fresh off a promotion that felt like winning the lottery but tasted like fool's gold. My desk was a war zone of spreadsheets and coffee stains, buried under the weight of endless audits that no one else wanted to touch. That's where it started, the first crack in the facade. A line item in the Q3 report for client Vanguard Dynamics. $2.7 million in consulting fees that routed through a Cayman shell company I'd never heard of. I flagged it in my notes, a quiet ping to my boss, Marcus Hale, the golden boy VP with a smile like a razor and eyes that appraised you like meat on the market. Just double check, he'd said, clapping my shoulder a little too hard. You're our numbers girl, Izzy. Keep it tight. That was line number one. In my first life, I dug deeper because I was too green to know better, too hungry to prove I belonged in that glass-ceilinged viper pit. The deeper I went, the more the threads unraveled. Falsified invoices, ghost subsidiaries siphoning funds to offshore accounts, a web of corruption that led straight to the C-suite. Marcus wasn't just complicit. He was the architect, cooking the books to inflate stock prices for a merger that would make Hargrove a player in the big leagues. And me? I was the loose end. The whistleblower they painted as the thief when the SEC came knocking. Planted evidence, fake emails from my account authorizing transfers, timestamps doctored to look like I'd been skimming for months. The board's internal audit pinned it all on me, and by the time the headline screamed, Wall Street was kid turns crook, my career was ash, my savings seized, and the only friends left were the ones who'd ghosted after the perp walk. Suicide seemed like the only exit that didn't involve orange jumpsuits and federal prison. But now I was back, heart pounding like a war drum, staring at that same Q3 report on my laptop screen. The date, September 15th, 2022. 3 years to the day before my death. This time, I wouldn't play the patsy. This time, I'd burn it all down from the inside, starting with the man who'd handed me the matches. The subway rattled me into Manhattan like a bad omen. The morning rush, a crush of suits and stares that made my skin crawl. Every face blurred into suspects. The barista at my corner deli who'd tipped off the tabloids in my first go-round. The HR drone who'd leaked my psych eval to make the unstable embezzler narrative stick. Paranoia? Maybe. But knowledge was my weapon now, sharper than any knife, and I wielded it like a pro. By 9 a.m., I was at my desk, fingers flying over keys, cross-referencing that Cayman account against public filings I'd memorized in Hell's waiting room. It took 20 minutes to confirm. Vanguard CEO, Elena Vasquez, was Marcus's silent partner, funneling kickbacks through her philanthropy foundation to launder the excess. Elena, the ice queen of boardrooms, who'd mentored me once upon a time, or so I'd thought. Her betrayal cut deepest, a mother's warmth turned to venom when I got too close. I needed proof, ironclad and time-stamped, but subtlety was key. Rushing and guns blazing would get me fired, or worse, disappeared like that intern who'd quit last year after asking too many questions. So I started small, anonymous tips to the compliance team, buried in routine emails. Potential irregularity in VD, 47-line item. Recommend external review. CC'd to Marcus, of course, to watch him squirm. His reply came at noon. Izzy, babe, you're seeing ghosts. Let's chat over lunch, my treat. The babe made my stomach turn. In the old timeline, that lunch was where he planted the first seed of doubt, gaslighting me into thinking I was overworked, paranoid. This time, I countered with a smiley emoji and a rain check. Swamped, while my free hand queued up a VPN tunnel to the firm's ancient server archives. Hacking wasn't my forte. I'd never been the black hat type, but 3 years of seething isolation in a Fleabag motel, poring over true crime podcasts and Reddit deep dives, had turned me into an amateur sleuth with a grudge. I spoofed an IT maintenance log, slipped in under the radar, and downloaded the unredacted merger docs. There it was, Marcus's digital fingerprints all over the falsifications, emails to Elena coded in emojis that only made sense if you knew their inside joke about cooking the books like Abuela's tamales. I saved it to a burner drive, heart racing, the thrill of the hunt mixing with the terror of getting caught. One wrong ping, and firewalls would light up like Christmas. By evening, as the sun dipped behind the Hudson, casting long shadows over the trading floor, I slipped into the executive washroom, Marcus's domain, all marble and mirrors that screamed old money. I timed it perfectly. He was at his weekly schmooze with the partners. In the stall, I etched a single word into the fogged glass with my nail. Cayman. Petty? Hell yes. But it was a gauntlet thrown, a whisper in the wind that said, I know. Wiping it away before the cleaner came, I felt the first real spark of power since waking up. This wasn't just survival. This was scorched earth. Week 2 blurred into a high-wire act. I played the part. Eager Izzy, the rising star cracking jokes in the break room, volunteering for the drudge work that kept eyes off me. But nights were for the shadows. Encrypted chats with a freelance journalist I'd befriended online, a chain smoker named Dex who owed me from a favor in the old life. I'd tipped him off to a minor insider trading scandal that made his career. Dig into Hargrove's Vanguard ties, I messaged from a ghost account. Follow the shells. It's bigger than Enron Light. He bit, hookless, promising to poke around without naming sources. Meanwhile, I wove my web tighter, mirroring Marcus's calendar to anticipate his moves, shadowing Elena at a charity gala where she held court like a queen bee, her laugh tinkling over champagne flutes while I nursed a soda water and memorized the faces of her inner circle. The first crack came on a Friday, rain lashing the windows like Judgment Day. Marcus cornered me in the elevator, his cologne a cloying fog that made me want to retch. Izzy, you've been distant. Everything good at home? His eyes flicked to my ringless finger, probing for leverage. In the old timeline, I'd spilled about my crumbling engagement to Jake, the bartender who'd bailed when the feds showed up. This time, I leaned in, voice honeyed venom. Never better, Marcus. Just knee-deep in those audits you love. Found some fun discrepancies in the VD files. Nothing major, but you know how anal the SEC gets. His smile froze, a tell I'd missed before. Discrepancies? Tell me more. I shrugged, stepping off on my floor. Over coffee Monday. Promise it'll be enlightening. That weekend, holed up in my apartment with takeout lo mein and a bottle of Cabernet, non-alcoholic this round. Clarity was my edge. I pieced together the puzzle's missing corner. The crime wasn't just fraud. It was murder, wrapped in paperwork. Remember that intern, Tyler? The one who'd quit. In my downloads, an email chain. Marcus to Elena, kids asking questions. Handle it quiet. Accident on the lie works. Tyler's car wreck, ruled DUI, but the talk screen I'd subpoenaed in my mind's eye, haunting the appeals process post-frame up, showed no alcohol, just a spiked brake line. They'd killed him to silence the questions, and pinned the fall on me when I picked up his thread. Rage boiled over, hot and righteous. I hurled my glass at the wall, shards raining like confetti for the dead. Monday's coffee was a masterclass in psychological warfare. Seated in the firm's overpriced cafe, steam curling from our mugs like cigarette smoke in a noir flick, I laid it out. Not the truth, but a mirror of their lies. See, the fees aren't matching projections. Looks like someone's been creative with the routing. I slid a doctored printout across the table, numbers tweaked just enough to echo their forgeries without tipping my hand. Marcus's Adam's apple bobbed, his fork pausing midair over a scone. Creative? Izzy, that's not. Oh, come on, I interrupted, leaning forward with a conspiratorial wink. We've all fudged a decimal here and there to make quarterly look pretty. But this is next-level artistry. His laugh was forced, a bark that didn't reach his eyes. You're full of surprises, Reyes. Keep this between us, yeah? Partners are twitchy about leaks. Between us. The words hung like a noose, but this time, I held the rope. As he squirmed, I dropped the bomb casually. Heard about that intern last year. Tyler, right? Tragic. Made me think twice about digging too deep. His cup rattled against the saucer, coffee sloshing like blood in water. Score 1 for the ghost. The tension ratcheted up like a thriller I'd binge-watched in isolation. Anonymous emails to the board, veiled threats that mirrored the ones they'd sent me in the endgame. Audit trail leads to the top. Time to clean house. Sent from a VPN in Toronto, untraceable. Marcus started jumping at shadows, canceling meetings, his once charismatic stride turning to a hunchbacked shuffle. Elena, sharper, countered with charm offensives, inviting me to mentor sessions, where her questions probed like scalpels. You've got fire, Isabella. But fire burns both ways. Ever think about loyalty? Her hand on my arm was ice, her smile a warning shot. I decided to escalate, a choice that kept me up nights, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin. Controversy brewed in my gut. Expose it all now, risk being dismissed as a hysteric? Or go nuclear, fabricate evidence to turn their weapon against them? The moral high ground felt slippery, greased by the memory of Tyler's mangled Subaru photos I'd seen in the old New York Post. Screw ethics, survival was the new black. Late one night, in a dimly lit cyber cafe in Hell's Kitchen, cash only, no cams, I forged an email trail from Marcus to a fictional whistleblower, promising payoffs for silence on the intern issue. Uploaded to a dark web drop, leaked to Dex with instructions to shop it to the Times. The fallout hit like a market crash. By Wednesday, whispers snaked through the trading floor. Hails and hot water. SEC sniffing around. Marcus called me into his office, door locked, blinds drawn. Sweat beaded on his forehead, tie askew like a noose half-tied. What the fuck is this, Izzy? You think you can play me? His voice was a hiss, close enough to spray spittle. I met his gaze, unflinching, the weight of 2 lifetimes stealing my spine. Play? Nah, Marcus. I'm just the auditor. And the books don't lie, unless you make them. He lunged, hand clamping my wrist like a vice, but I twisted free, knee connecting with his groin in a move I'd practiced on a heavy bag after my suicide attempt recovery in the Phantom timeline. He crumpled, gasping, and I was out the door before security blinked. HR suspended me pending investigation. Ironic, given the storm I'd unleashed. But as I packed my desk, Elena appeared, flanked by 2 suits who screamed, "Company lawyer." Isabella, she purred, voice laced with arsenic. This tantrum ends now. Sign the NDA, take the severance, and disappear. Or we make sure you never work in this town again. Her eyes, dark as the Hudson at midnight, held a promise of worse. I signed, pocketed the check, and walked out into the drizzle, the city lights blurring through tears, not of fear, but triumph. The leak had worked. Dex texted from his burner. Article drops tomorrow. You're a ghost source, but damn, Reyes, this is Pulitzer shit. The Times hit stands like a grenade in a confessional, front-page splash. Hargrove exec implicated in intern death cover-up. Faked emails point to fraud ring. Dex had spun it masterfully, anonymous sources weaving a tapestry of deceit that spared me but shredded Marcus. By noon, the SEC was raiding the 42nd floor, agents and windbreakers swarming like locusts, hauling servers and shredders into vans under the glare of news choppers. I watched from a dive bar in the East Village, nursing a root beer float, the TV above the counter flickering with live feeds. Marcus in cuffs, face a mask of feigned shock as cameras flashed like paparazzi at a funeral. Elena, ever the survivor, issued a statement decrying rogue elements, but her foundation was already under subpoena, the philanthropic facade crumbling like cheap drywall. Vindication tasted like ash and adrenaline. My phone buzzed. Jake, my almost fiancé from this timeline, texting a heart emoji, and saw the news. You okay? Dinner. In the old life, he'd stuck by me until the trial, then bailed when the stress turned our nights into screaming matches. This time, I replied with a simple, busy saving the world. Tomorrow? It felt like reclaiming stolen air, but the high was fleeting. As the bar TV cut to analysts debating the Hargrove scandal, a Sheeran scrolled. Missing link. Junior analyst Isabella Reyes on leave amid internal probe. My name. Out there, toxic and tangled. I bolted, weaving through Alphabet City alleys slick with yesterday's rain. Paranoia a live wire under my skin. They'd trace it back. Had to. The forged emails were a house of cards. One deep dive into metadata, and I'd be the forger, not the avenger. Home wasn't safe. I grabbed a duffel from my walk-up. Essentials, burner phone, the drive with real evidence, and vanished into the night, hailing a cab to Penn Station. Greyhound to Philly, cash ticket, no ID. On the bus, jolting over potholes like a bad hangover, I replayed the decisions that led here. Was the hack worth it? The knee to Marcus's balls? Hell yes, but the controversy gnawed. I'd become the monster I hunted, bending truth to break them. And Tyler? His ghost rode shotgun, whispering, justice or just revenge, is he? Philly was a breather, a nondescript motel off I-95 where the neon sign buzzed like a guilty conscience. I holed up, chain-watching coverage on a cracked laptop. Day 2. Elena resigns in disgrace. Her penthouse auctioned to cover restitution. Marcus sings like a canary, flipping on bigger fish, senators, even, with Hargrove slush funds greasing campaign palms. The firm folds overnight, stocks tanking 80%, retail investors howling on CNBC about their 401(k)s evaporating. Schadenfreude surged, but so did the backlash. Op-eds branding it a witch hunt, Fox News pundits railing against liberal deep state audits, ruining American business. My face popped up in a sidebar, grainy headshot from LinkedIn, captioned, "The Enigma Analyst, Hero or Hoax?" Dex called from a secure line. Izzy, off record. This came from you, didn't it? The emails, too clean, like scripted drama. I laughed, bitter as black coffee. Does it matter? They're rotting in the cells I built for them. He paused, the line crackling. Matters if the feds knock. Watch your back. Elena's lawyered up, whispering about a disgruntled insider with a vendetta. Vendetta. The word landed like a gut punch. Was that all I was now? A ghost with a grudge, haunting the living? Nights blurred into strategy sessions with my reflection. The real evidence on the drive, untampered originals, could clear me, but handing it over meant stepping into the light, testifying in starched collars under fluorescent glare. Or I could vanish, let the dominoes fall, rebuild in some nowhere town with a new name and a barista gig. But Tyler's eyes, hazel, wide in that autopsy photo I'd never forget, pinned me. No running. Not again. Back in New York by week's end, incognito in a wig and oversized shades, I met Dex in a Washington Heights bodega, the air thick with plantains frying and merengue from a tinny radio. He slid an envelope across the formica. Printouts from Elena's Discovery Motion. She's gunning for you, Reyes. Claims you hacked her personal server, revenge porn level shit, but with spreadsheets. I scanned the pages, blood turning to ice. Attached, screenshots of my VPN logs, timestamps matching the galanite. How? I'd been flawless, triple-checked. Then it hit, the betrayal within the betrayal. Jake. My Jake, who'd borrowed my laptop that weekend for work stuff, his IT side hustle a cover for sticky fingers. In the old timeline, he'd sold me out for a plea deal. Here, greed had turned him snitch before I even looped him in. Rage, revisited. I stormed out, hailing a car 2-hour. No, his shared loft in Williamsburg, the bridge lights streaking like accusations. He was there, packing takeout, oblivious in sweatpants. Babe? Thought you were in Philly. His hug smelled of cheap cologne and lies. I shoved him back, envelope fluttering to the floor like fallen leaves. You ratted. For what? A payout from Elena's goons. His face crumpled, denials tumbling out. Izzy? No. I fixed your firewall, that's all. They must have. Liar. I grabbed my phone, dialing 911 mid-snarl. Yeah, officer? I'd like to report a cyber intrusion. My fiancé's been selling my access codes. His eyes widened, betrayal mirroring mine. Cops came fast, cuffs clicking like karma's applause. As they Mirandized him, Jake spat. You think this fixes you? You're broken, Izzy. Always questioning, always fighting shadows. Maybe, but shadows fought back, and I'd learned to throw punches in the dark. With Jake in holding, the net tightened. I went public, full Phoenix, retaining a shark from the Innocence Project's white-collar wing, pro bono for the headlines. Press conference in Foley Square, rain sheeting down like absolution. I didn't steal, I survived. And now, the truth outs. Flanked by decks and a stack of originals, I laid it bare. The fraud, the cover-up, Tyler's murder pinned on accident. Gasps from the scrum, mics thrusting like bayonets. Elena's team countersued for defamation, but the audit I'd triggered internally, via a planted whistleblower. Me, again, dropped like a bomb. Independent forensics confirming every bite. The trial was a circus, 3 months of sound bites and subpoenas. Manhattan Supreme a pressure cooker of egos and evidence. Marcus testified first, a sniveling shell, trading my name for leniency. She knew, pushed me to it. Lies, but they stung, dredging the old frame-up slime. Elena took the stand in Chanel, poise cracking under cross. Ms. Reyes was unstable, jealous of my success. My lawyer shredded her, parading the emails, the break-line analysis from Tyler's mechanic, bribed witness, but truth's flexible in revenge arcs. Jurors, blue-collar Bronx folks like my folks, ate it up, nodding when I testified, voice steady as steel. They killed a kid for numbers. I died inside watching it happen. This is for him. Closing arguments peaked in controversy. My attorney argued moral vigilantism, that my forgeries were necessary fiction to expose greater evil. Pundits howled. CNN called it ends justify means madness, while progressive pods hailed me as the audit avenger. I sat stone-faced, the weight of judgment heavy, but when the foreman read, not guilty, on all counts, the courtroom erupted. Elena's glare from the defense table? Priceless venom. Marcus got 20, her 15, conspiracy to commit murder, fraud on a scale that made Madoff blush. Freedom tasted like street hot dogs and anonymity's edge, but the scars itched. Post-trial, offers flooded. Book deals, TED Talks, a Netflix true crime special with my face blurred in reenactments. I turned most down, holing up in a sublet in Harlem, walls papered with rejection letters from my pre-resurrection job hunts. The win was Pyrrhic. Jake's plea deal painted me as the villain in his narrative, tabloids dubbing me the fractured whistleblower, with sidebars on my erratic, pre-scandal tweets. Friends? The few who'd believed resurfaced, but trust was a luxury I couldn't afford. Nights, I'd wake sweating, the hotel bathroom's towel cold under my cheek, pills scattering like accusations. Rebirth demanded reinvention. I pivoted to consulting, independent audits for nonprofits. The underdogs Hargrove would have devoured. First gig, a Brooklyn co-op fighting gentrification, their books a mess of grants and grudges. It felt right, grounding, like penance for the forgeries that still haunted ethics panels. Dex co-authored my memoir, Ghostwritten, naturally, a bestseller that paid off my folks' mortgage in the Bronx. From betrayal to boardroom bulletproof, we called it. Cheesy, but it sold the American dream. Rise, fall, claw back harder. Marcus rotted in Otisville, pen pal pleas for closure, landing in my spam. I visited once, Federal Pen's visiting room a fluorescent purgatory. He looked smaller, paunchier, eyes pleading through plexiglass. Izzy, you won. Can't we? I pressed the receiver closer, voice low. You killed Tyler. Framed me. That's not a game. That's Graves. His sob echoed as I hung up, walking out into autumn chill, leaves crunching like brittle bones. Elena fared worse, shanked in women's lockup over a commissary dispute. News wires buzzing, disgraced though dead at 52. Karma? Or just prison poetry? Either way, no tears. But the twist, the real gut-wrencher, came 6 months post-verdict, in a manila envelope slipped under my door, no return address. Inside, a USB drive and a note in block letters. You missed one. Heart hammering. I plugged it in, screen blooming with files. Hargrove's legacy ledger, post-merger addendums I'd never seen. Transfers to a new shell. $50 million, routed not to Elena, but my own blood. Dad. My father, Ramon Reyes, the stoic MTA mechanic who'd raised me on stories of union strikes and quiet integrity. The timestamps? Predating my death, payoffs for consulting on subway contracts Hargrove lobbied, ghost jobs, bribes funneled through his garage side hustle. File rose, betrayal a second death. I'd grilled him in the old timeline, post frame up, his denials ironclad. Mija, I'd never. But here, the proof glared. Emails from Marcus. Reyes Sr. delivers. Keep him sweet. He'd known. Hell. Enabled. The rot. Trading my future for a nest egg that bought mom's chemo and our old Chevy. The secret buried deepest wasn't theirs. It was family, the fracture line I'd ignored in both lives. Confrontation brewed like a Bronx summer storm. I drove home that night, Queensbridge lights smearing past like accusations, pulling up to the walk-up where I'd grown up. Dad on the stoop, nursing a Tecate, face weathered but warm. Bella? Que pasa? His hug enveloped me, calluses rough from wrenches, but I pulled back, drive clutched like a grenade. This? Explain. The file spilled digital guts on his phone screen, his color draining like bad milk. It was for you, Mija, for college, for your dreams. They came to me first, before you even started. I thought I could protect you. Protect. The word shattered me. You sold me out, Dad. For what? 30 pieces of subway silver. Tears hot, voice cracking. We argued till dawn. Yells echoing off brick. Mom's ghost in the curtains fluttering like judgment. He confessed in sobs. Marcus had recruited him years back, dangling security for the family. When I joined Hargrove, it was leverage, not pride. The frame-up? They promised it'd blow over. I believed them. Lies upon lies, the deepest cut paternal. Twist knifed deeper. Without his cut, the fraud scaled smaller, merger fizzled, Tyler's death unnecessary. My resurrection? Maybe not fate, but fallout from his greed rippling back. I walked out at sunrise, the door clicking like a finality, but forgiveness flickered, fragile as bodega coffee. Fix it, I said over my shoulder. Testify, or the feds get the drive. He did. Sentencing addendum. Ramon Reyes, reduced term for cooperation, his testimony sealing accomplices. We rebuilt slow, awkward dinners, therapy sessions where I unpacked the double death, him the guilt that aged him overnight. America loves redemption arcs. Mine trended on TikTok, therapists booking out months on Reyes' resilience. A year on, I'm Isabella 2.0, keynote speaker at ethics forums, board seat at a fintech startup preaching transparency. Jake? Did time for cyber fraud, emerged a podcaster on toxic ambition. We nod at industry mixers, ghosts in tailored suits. The audit that proved I knew more. It wasn't numbers, it was souls. Theirs, mine, the ones we broke and mended. But some nights, in the quiet of my Harlem brownstone, I question everything again. Was the revenge worth the wreckage? The controversy that branded me vigilante? Tyler's family emails thanks, a scholarship in his name funded by my royalties. Dad's laugh lines deepen, Mom's grave fresher with flowers I bring. Maybe that's the proof, not in ledgers, but in living louder than the lies. Yet the mirror shows a woman harder-edged, eyes holding storms. Trung Sin didn't erase the scars, it etched them deeper, a roadmap to reckonings. And if another audit calls, I'll answer, with questions sharper than swords, because in this second chance, ignorance isn't bliss. It's the grave I crawled out of. Epilogue whispers in the wind off the East River, where I run mornings now, pounding pavement like penance. The firm's ghost haunts headlines still, class action suits dragging on, victims' funds trickling back like reluctant rain. I get letters from ex-colleagues thanking the catalyst, from strangers inspired to question the quarterly. Controversy clings like glitter, protests at my talks, signs reading, vigilantes aren't heroes, but the cheers drown them, a roar of reclaimed power. Twist's afterglow fades into routine, but one loose thread tugs, the envelope sender. Anonymous, but the postmark, Otisville. Marcus? Elena Spector? Or a bigger player, the senator who lawyered up but never fell? I hire a PI, old-school gumshoe named Frankie with a flask hip and a nose for shadows. Weeks later, report lands. No prints, but CCTV catches a guard's wife, Marcus's cousin, slipping mail for family. His last play, a Hail Mary to drag me down, or twisted olive branch. I burn it unread, ashes scattering in the Hudson, a ritual for ends. Forgiveness, that slippery eel, schools and therapy. Group sessions with fraud survivors, circles of shared shrapnel. Dad joins once. Voice gruff over Zoom from his parole halfway house. I was weak, Bella. But you're steel. We laugh, tentative, rebuilding bridges from Bronx stoops to boardrooms. Mom's anniversary. We toast with cafe con leche at her plot. Stories flowing freer than tears. Jake. We cross paths at a gala. Him pitching his pod. Me dodging donors. Water under, he says, hand extended. I shake, brief as business, walking away lighter. No grudges left to carry. The load's mine alone now. Career crests. Forbes 30 under 35. The auditor who audited America. I keynote at Davos. Irony thick as Swiss fog. Warning titans. Numbers don't lie, but people do. Question everything, or become the lie. Applause thunders, but Elena's empty seat at the head table haunts. A void where villainy sat. Back home, Dex pops champagne. To the woman who rewrote the rules. We clink, his grin wolfish. And the endings? I ask, gaze drifting to the skyline. Happily ever after? Or just, ever after? He shrugs. Your call, Reyes. You earned the pen. So I write. Memoir sequels, op-eds eviscerating loyalty myths, scripts for that Netflix deal. I direct, blurring no faces. Tyler's scholarship thrives. 20 kids a year auditing futures brighter than mine started. Controversy simmers. Ethics boards debate Reyes rule. Preemptive leaks as protected speech. Protests fizzle into podcasts. My name synonymous with shakeups. But the real high trio? Quiet victories. A co-op client saves their block. Books balanced by my hand. Dad's garage goes legit. Union-backed. Teaching kids like I was. Wrenches over ledgers. Runs along the river, wind whipping doubts away. The bathroom mirror? It shows laugh lines now, eyes clear as audited glass. I died once, betrayed by blood and boardroom. Rose to question, to clash, to carve truth from the carnage. The audit proved I knew more, not just figures, but fractures in the facade we call fair play. America, land of second chances? Damn right, if you fight filthy for them. And if the ghosts return? I'll audit them too. Because in this life, the only secret I bury is regret.